Guillermo Del Toro?
What's
nationality?
Yeah.
I don't know. Where's
Spanish,
he from?
probably.
There's something, and Martin, the big, and even Peter Jackson.
Yeah, these big bearded guys.
Big bearded
Big bearded fantasy guys.
they've got bad hearts. And they
Come on now.
probably have bad knees too, but
For the most part, we don't live rated R.
We don't.
You know?
For the most part, yeah.
I think for the most part we live.
Our
really,
movies we watch
but-
are so much more raunchy.
Right.
We don't relate to the movies we watch.
we actually don't. Yeah,
we don't live
don't.
rated R.
This film did not pick a lane. In some ways, it was too sweet. It was too family. It was too fun for a action adventure. All right. Also,
Some say
it wasn't sweet enough because Disney called it too incestuous. Sean Connery was a dog.
Connery has such a unique charm to him. You want to kiss him right now.
Dude, I can't take it.
Hey, welcome back to the Wacky Wonderful Wiseworks podcast. All you guys, gals, geeks, and goofballs.
Happy Monday morning.
It is Monday.
Happy Monday morning.
Why is everything we release on Monday?
I don't know. So people have it all week.
The beginning of the week.
And also,
People have
even
it all
though
week.
Sunday's technically the beginning of the week.
Yeah.
well, people go to church on Sundays, and I'm not trying to compete with all them service live streams on
True.
YouTube.
Very true.
So what I do, cause if you're an avid YouTube church watcher, you realize YouTube will recommend if you just keep up with who's pastors online or who streams their services from churches that you're aware of. YouTube, you watch one or two just to get an idea of what the church feels like, and then all of a sudden every Sunday YouTube's here's a live stream and here's a live stream and here's a live stream and here's a live stream of all these churches that I'm not affiliated with. I just looked up on YouTube once. You know what I mean?
I didn't have that. I don't have that on YouTube, and it has gone down
Which
a lot.
I'm happy. I'm happy about YouTube pushing out the
So he's
Christian
cutting me
faith.
off today.
Sorry.
On Facebook, during the peak of COVID, there was so many recommended to me during COVID, and then it's gone down a lot.
Yeah, because
since then.
YouTube's here's a market to get people to watch
Facebook.
YouTube. Oh, Facebook? Same with Facebook.
I'm really.
Which is what I said. You just
I'm really
ignored
happy.
what I said.
My church in Pennsylvania live streams their service every Sunday.
Still?
And Wednesday night.
Nice.
Which is really nice.
That's
'cause
rare.
of Elijah.
Wednesday night live
You think?
stream?
Pennsylvania?
Yeah.
Yeah, Elijah. No, I had a conversation with him.
Oh, he's
about
the one doing the live
Elijah's
stream
the
and
one
stuff.
doing it.
So the
It's
pastor's
awesome.
you go for it if you
Yeah.
want it, you know?
I like that a lot because we used to record all the time, just every service. But it's cool to you have the playback.
Yeah.
You have the VOD is what it's called. It's the playback, the video on demand essentially, and you have all of those that you can go back through.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have to. Audio recording is really great for a service to be able to give people, so you can just listen to it. But being able to turn it on YouTube is really nice too.
It's because
Absolutely.
we've talked about this. You get a young guy in there that's enthusiastic. They're like, "Yeah, I want to serve the Lord."
That's right.
It's
They're
good.
serving the Lord.
That's
If
right.
I-
And you know what pastors say to that? Amen, brother. Is what
If
they
I
say.
miss a service,
What?
if I miss going to church here, I'll often, for some reason or another, if I'm sick or if I'm busy, I'll turn on the live stream
Of your
for
church.
Pennsylvania, and I'll just
yeah.
listen to that.
Pastor Nathan.
My church does not live stream on YouTube. They do it on their website, and then they post it on YouTube after it's done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say this: old style churches with more of the Catholic style buildings. So nothing's carpeted. We're not getting into Baptist territory. Nothing's carpeted. The echo is huge, and the reason why is they didn't have a sound system, so it projects well. For ancient Rome, it was a great method.
Yeah, they built cathedrals to have good acoustics.
Yeah,
Now with sound systems and streaming, it is
they
a
gotta carpet
nightmare.
that. You got to carpet that.
You got to carpet. I mean, if you're going to be online, these churches got to figure out a way. Put up sound panels. Do something. We can't have, if you have a sound system so people in the back can hear you, Well, that building's designed for no sound system. So
It's like-
you're going to have to change some stuff in those buildings. And you watch live streams at those churches, it's a mess.
I
It's
mean,
a complete
it's
mess.
not a huge building, but at Maranatha, they got the concrete floor,
Right.
with the walls,
Right.
Yeah.
But it's not a big building. You could yell and everybody could hear you.
Shout out to Maranatha.
Yeah.
We did a 100th episode in Maranatha a few years back.
We did.
You should go check that out. Me and Joshua did.
He was a
Ooh,
few
it's
years
probably not
back.
great,
It's not great,
but
it was episode
our
100.
podcast, flow was probably.
I
not
took my
even as
shirt off
good.
at the end.
You did.
Did
I
pull a
called
Burt
in.
Kreischer. You did call in. That's right.
Ethan was with me.
I was surprised we had connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was sitting.
Wow, yeah,
I
I didn't even think
I
of
was
that.
sitting in my car across from where the old church was, and we drove past the old church when we were in Georgia.
Yeah.
There's a.
You're.
I know you.
To
You
give
may
me-
not
no,
remember.
No, I remember exactly because I know what you're talking about. For people who are listening,
Yeah.
they're gonna be so confused because you said Pennsylvania church, you said old
right,
church.
right. So
in
in
Georgia,
Georgia,
and then
the
new
church I
church
went
in
to,
Georgia.
the church I grew up at in Georgia, they sold their building and it's now a school. And I worked at the school. Across from the school, which is the
Yeah.
old church, is a recreational park. It's a field. It's got a baseball field. It's got a track around it.
Yeah,
And you
I know-
saw that.
Yes, I
It
do
was
know
to
what
the
you're talking
left.
about. Which
when we were
is
driving
new.
past.
Pretty new compared
It's
to
fairly
me,
new, yeah.
but for what I know, I've
We
never
that's
seen it.
where I parked over there
Right.
and called you guys.
Right. So we just wanted to. I think with that episode was the intention. I think when we were getting our bearings and we were like, okay, we need to talk about a movie, but we also should tell a lot of personal stories because that's what podcasts did. Those early days of
which
podcasting,
is great.
which is good
Yeah.
for people that are interested in that. People are less interested in that if they don't know you these days, especially as we grow.
But we had
in
some
those
pretty
early
good
days,
stories.
yeah, we did.
We had some good stories. We had. To
I think
tell.
the point of that was like we had talked about Maranatha so much up to that point. We're like we have to do a podcast there and for 100 episodes, and we have to like show B-roll where we went to. We tried to look for icy caves, and we showed
we
B-roll.
didn't film any of that thing there though.
We did though. We did. Remember, I included B-roll in the episode
very
as we
brief.
talked about it. And so we had a whole little me and Joshua, and then we did a podcast at Maranatha, and it was a good time. You should check it out.
You know, I think it's interesting that a lot of people start a podcast because it's like, oh, we have great ideas and tons of stories to tell.
Right.
And then they run through all their stories and stop doing a podcast.
That's what I say. There's always the episode there's always 30 episode
30
threshold.
episodes because you run through, you don't have as many stories as you think you do.
Right.
You run through all of
No,
them.
we've got some stories.
We've got
No,
a lot
but
of
not
stories.
enough to fill up
Not
hundreds of
three-
episodes.
but-
Between
not
the
100.
three of us, we have plenty of stories, but even we've run through quite a few of them.
All of the ones that are fresh on mind, they're all documented
Yeah.
Yeah.
on podcasts.
We've run through most of them, and I think that's what a lot of guys do is they run through all of their stories, they get out all the thoughts that they have.
Right. And then they're like, well, what's left?
Yeah.
This is a great segment because you guys are talking about to bring up that one story we have not told yet.
What story was that?
You don't have one?
Oh. Now,
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. There and
Actually,
people that are
we
interested
have to have a story
Hold
we've
on.
never told.
We do.
First, there definitely are some people that come across our podcast who are thinking about doing a podcast. So just on the off chance that people see our podcast and stuck around for a few minutes that don't know us, if you're thinking about doing a podcast, build it around. This is for free.
Yeah.
Build it around something that you can constantly make content around that's not all focused on you. So there's a doorway for people to enter the podcast, stick around, get to know who you are, and you don't run out of content.
Definitely have things to talk about.
Yeah.
You know, that's other than because you're gonna have your own stories.
Yeah, well, and you can interject them
Yeah.
around the stuff. What?
Plus,
I thought of a whole bunch of stories that came up that we have not told, and we will probably never tell on this.
We'll tell them on the
podcast.
pre-show for patrons. Oh wait, are you saying they're inappropriate?
The videos that are circling around our friend group. Let's just leave it at that, and you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh,
I know what you're talking about.
There's all those stories that have not been told on
The
any
Banana
podcast.
Man.
And
Man.
honestly, I don't
Yeah.
think they should be told.
No,
But I think
no.
there's plenty of stories that you have that, you know, because this podcast is the way that it is, you know, and we want to keep it kind of for all audiences.
Yes.
We don't tell every story, and that's fine.
no.
No,
That's fun.
And honestly, I know our friends our friends somewhat enjoy it if we bring them into it, but we have to keep that limited unless we have them on the podcast to talk about it, because people don't like to hear stories about people they don't know.
Right.
They just don't.
Well, and here's the other thing. If you
Depends the story, but
I think it depends. I think if somebody's following the podcast and
If we're the main, if one of
they're
us is the protagonist of the story.
if you're a fan of the podcast and you keep hearing Tim and Seth, right? And you've watched the podcast long enough,
which we've had them on.
I think you're going to be a fan of Tim and Seth.
we've almost made them a side character.
They're a character in the podcast lore.
Podcast lore,
Right?
Yeah.
And
Or John Mark and Ethan.
Yeah, that's fun. I've listened to plenty of. I don't really listen to podcasts, but videos that I watch, or people that I watch on the internet often talk about other people, and I'm like, man, I wish they were on the show too, because these stories are fun.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You have to think about, what are people that don't know me or getting to know me through the podcast thinking about the people that I know personally that they don't. And if it's appropriate, bring it up. If it's not, talk about it off camera. You know what I mean?
And that's why when we go into a story, like when I started with like the old church, Josh specified. We have to specify, because it's like, otherwise they have no idea what we're talking about.
Yeah.
333 episodes of experience of podcasting.
Do you think we would ever do like a Good Mythical Morning just did on their version of Patreon? I don't know if it's just their website.
I think they have the Mythical Society. I have a feeling that's through the join button, isn't it?
No, they did a late night live stream where they did
Rated R.
Yes, and do you think we'll ever do something like that? Tell these stories on a live paid promotion?
No time soon.
There'd be a paid wall.
No time soon.
No,
we do that already, kind of, on the pre-show.
we
so
do.
what I'm
Yeah.
saying is, like, if you want that, you can go to Patreon.
well,
Links in the description.
here's the other thing. For the most part, we don't live rated R.
We don't.
You know,
For the most part, yeah.
I think for the most part we live.
Our
really,
movies we watch
but-
are so much more raunchy.
Right.
We cannot.
We don't
relate to the movies.
No,
we
we
watch.
actually don't. Yeah,
we don't live
We don't.
rated R.
We don't. We're making people think.
So you know, it's kind of better for everybody to be able to enjoy something if we don't podcast rated R. We podcast PG-13.
That's a beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of Rhett and Link, so they've always said we make content according to what we're okay with our kids watching. So they've gotten
but
progressively.
it's gonna be a long time before we can follow
They've gotten
that role.
progressively more rated R adjacent because of their kids are older. They're going to college. However, we don't necessarily have those rules. Like, I don't think Josie's not going to watch my podcast until she's age appropriate, like PG-13, like 13 years old.
But also,
I'm saying is, like, we build it on the standard of PG-13 basically, and then go from there.
But if she's 8 years old and she's listening to a podcast, I don't think it's going to be like one of our main podcasts. I don't think it's going to be an issue.
No,
probably not,
because we hardly ever swear. No, we never show anything that's, you know.
We accidentally show ads sometimes.
Maybe an ad.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing I would worry about is, like, okay, sometimes we talk about shows and movies that she would definitely not be allowed to watch.
Right.
So I don't necessarily want her gaining interest at a young age in these movies and shows unless we're ready to let her watch them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We gush over some things sometimes that aren't age appropriate for all audiences. And you don't. I've thought about that too. You don't want people getting, let me go look up Game of Thrones.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
It's not for everybody.
It's not.
And maybe we should have someone on the channel who's like, and if you are a good Christian couple with little kids, maybe you shouldn't go watch Game of Thrones.
Right.
Because all we do is gush about it, and then someone's going to get over there and be like, what is this?
Sometimes we preface too. We're like, be aware.
Yeah. This is not for kids.
This is not for kids.
Yeah.
not for the kid.
But sometimes you got to...
Parents, adults, use your discretion.
Yeah. PG-13 show, everybody. We're coming out. Coming out as PG-13.
We're coming out as PG-13.
We're 13 and older appropriate is what we are. And that's all she wrote. Now,
you know, as a joke, this is random. I said this as a joke, and it made one of my coworkers laugh, but...
Because it was a joke?
a good story?
No, they said something like, we were talking about electrical work because I work at a construction place, and I said I would like to one day, when I grow up, I'll learn some electrical work.
Mm-hmm.
When you grow up,
Yeah, that's what I said.
you should probably do that on your own time, like around your house. Like learn the electrical systems of your house. That's probably the best way to do it.
Watch some
but I
YouTube
was
videos
saying,
and be very careful because
You
electric
can blow
work.
your
It's
blow
like
your head off.
magic.
I'm not doing electrical
magic.
work
It's like
anytime
it's
soon.
like playing with magic.
Yeah, it's pulsating energy.
It's invisible. It's invisible energy. It's magic.
Yeah.
It's actually
And we've learned how to
magic.
harness it
And
send it.
We've learned how to harness magic.
What's our first
right,
topic?
that's
I feel
right.
like we've just
God
totally.
did create magic.
Yeah,
And he's given us
What did-
dominion over it.
What
is
did
he's
God create with this first line?
Okay, so we're going to talk about filmmaking, the filmmaking industry a little bit, okay? And we always do that. However, there are technologies that we've brought up here and there on videos and podcasts about how the industry is moving forward and changing.
Basically, every time it gets back to you to produce the episode.
Right, because this is where the real interest lies.
But also, we talk about things like the volume, which people
All the time.
people don't really understand necessarily.
Yeah, exactly.
If we mention the volume and they don't follow this same kind of stuff we
it's
follow.
like, do you know what that is?
Yeah.
You probably don't. So I have a article that a fellow wrote where he basically...
Why am I doing
What
like
is this? Loring Weisenberger?
on this photo here?
You're just a little fruity.
What are you talking about?
Go back real quick.
One of these.
I don't mean to do this, but it came up. This photo right here. Just click into that.
Oh, one
just
of
click into
these?
this right quick. Why are you just giving
when
me
you
like
hit it on one of these.
This is a screenshot from one of our reaction videos.
Why did you give me one
love
of
it.
these?
Because you're like presenting.
Okay, well.
And that's a good face to put on a thumbnail. Look, let me do me, okay? Let you do you. If you want to throw up one of these, go for it.
Or one of these.
Okay, so Loring Weisenberger wrote an article with 7 film technologies disrupting the entertainment industry, okay?
Okay.
So I'm going to go through some of these and
We're going to go through 7 of them.
we'll react to them, we'll give our thoughts. We'll say, is this going to really hit strong or is this going to be just the only people with all the money? You know what I mean? That kind of thoughts. So algorithmic video editing is the first
barely
one.
say that. Even can't. I'll say that 5 times.
Algorithmic.
Never mind.
I can do it.
Okay, read this name.
What name?
Oh,
At its core, algorithmic editing simply refers to the process of editing according to a set of well-defined rules. It's like cutting your movie with math, not entirely unlike the practice of famously pursued by...
It's
Sergey Eisenstein.
wait,
Eisenstein.
Eisenstein.
Oh, right here.
Sergey, though, right? It's Sergey.
Sergey Eisenstein.
Okay. So basically, algorithmic video editing has been around. We
cut
saw
and
it.
splice.
It's sort of, but what we saw is it's becoming more elaborate. So your phone can do it. Your phone can take videos and pictures and make a little memory reel automatically, right? And it sends it to you.
Yeah.
Remember Apple, the iPad came out and you had iMovie.
Yeah.
And you can put together, like it automatically edits together a horror trailer from footage that you recorded. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My
so
phone-
that's a simple example of this. But
My
this
Google
is becoming,
my Google Photos will often send me, it's like, do you remember this memory?
Right.
And it'll send me like a collage of photos from
with
a certain
video
time.
and
Yeah.
everything, you know?
It makes it for me.
But the thing is, that's built on a template. So
Mm-hmm.
what it does is it takes your video and pastes it in the template. Algorithmic video editing is basically saying like math, and it's doing the exact same thing. It's taking a style from certain movies like Jurassic Park or The Godfather or Transformers or Fast and Furious, and it's saying like, we take this footage, right, and we insert it in this style format.
Yeah.
So there's still a lack of creativity there, but it is based on a complex math equation from a style that AI is able to look at, essentially.
Okay.
Have you I don't know if you guys have, played with the Chat GPT.
No,
I have a lot.
I haven't.
I've put in a couple scenarios to see if it would do something like this, where it takes a certain template and it writes accordingly. So I put in, I don't know, a dialogue scene between Ellen Ripley from Alien and Rambo.
Right.
from Rambo.
Right.
And it writes their dialogue according to how they would speak in the movie.
Okay.
So Ellen Ripley's talking about alien stuff. It's like, oh, be aware, there's aliens. I fought these, so we have to be careful. And Rambo's talking about Rambo stuff. I've been in wars. I've done this kind of guerrilla warfare before. So and so they're kind of staying in their own lane with a little bit of crossover.
Right. It's like if two characters are having a conversation.
I put them into this scenario.
Yeah.
So the algorithm is using their knowledge to write that character, which is really interesting.
However, I'm skeptical. I'm not skeptical of the ability of like math equation editing almost, you know what I mean? Or AI editing. What I really am interested in is, does it ever present real creativity? Because once it tries creativity, it becomes nonsense. At this point, if AI tries creativity, like unique stuff, it's either inaccurate or it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So it loses context.
Well, this is video editing.
Video editing, and that's a problem.
Editing can be extremely creative.
Oh, it's beyond creative.
Yeah.
Editing is an unlimited amount of creativity, which is why I love it. It's fun.
But we have the internet has produced so many videos with so much creative editing.
Yeah.
I think if your algorithm is good enough, it can copy exactly what it needs to, pick and choose what it wants from, and simulate creativity.
But it also has to keep context. So how do you take an editor and say, I want you to make a video, Peter McKinnon style. This is my talking head and this is my B-roll. Does the B-roll fit well with what the talking head is talking about? You know what I mean?
True.
So it has to hold context, which is really difficult to do. That's why I said if it tries creativity or even follows a format, sometimes you have to deviate in the edit from your normal format to keep context. So I'm saying this might not work. And it's going to change. It'll benefit. It'll help. Like in the same way that templates for motion graphics helps, this will help, but it's not going to replace editing because it ultimately can't. It's not good enough, and I don't know that it ever will, because that's some serious code for literally hundreds of billions of scenarios. They have to have a response. But
didn't you say that, we're even seeing in editing programs that it will cut stuff for you.
Yeah,
it'll cut things together. It'll look for those pauses. It'll look for those things and cut them. We're getting better.
We are. It like if you give it a full video, it finds where your cuts are and isolates those cuts. Also, Premiere has AI options like match cutting. So basically, or morph cuts. So basically, like in between two hard cuts, it can transform your video to make it look like there was no cut there. You know what I mean? As well as music editing, which basically says, I need this song to be 30 seconds, and you just shrink it down to wherever it needs to be, and then it automatically analyzes the music and finds where to make it sound seamless.
Or like matchup cutting. Yeah. I have noticed this
Warp Stabilizer, all of these are AI tools.
Yeah, in a long time ago, they had this where like if you're trying to match up audio with video, they can figure out, like, you just kind of get it in the area and then it'll line it up.
I mean, it says this last sentence. In other words, elements of algorithmic editing are already standard in post-production.
Exactly, especially Premiere Pro. Every single year, Premiere Pro is adding more and more AI tools inside of their program to help you. So I'm just saying, I don't think this is going to replace editors. I just think it's going to really benefit the same way that ChatGPT can write a essay for college students so they can cheat, but they just have to make sure that everything's correct in there. It's almost like a cheat code for editors. It's going to seriously help them, but ultimately, an editor who knows context and creativity has to still make sure context and creativity is there.
Tools like this, it's like let the editor be creative and let the AI find patterns and
assist you in the process.
Substitute patterns. Yeah. Right. They do all the pattern stuff for you so that you don't have to waste time doing it.
Exactly.
And then you do the creative stuff.
There's 7 of these?
There's 7 of these.
We can.
We'll go.
And here's
fast.
A video of a dude like writing code for.
Oh, so this is big. A Chat GPT.
Ooh, I might have to. Can you Chat
GPT having the ability
to tell you
the
article.
Yeah, if you're like this later.
I have this issue in coding for my game.
Right.
What do I need to do to fix? how do I make my character jump? And it will give you a line of code to help you make your character jump.
Nice.
That's what's happening right now.
So cheating is becoming
it's getting
mainstream.
better and better at helping you write code.
So we've talked about this on the podcast before, but even like with the Tesla cars right now, they're innovating. We can't figure out a Tesla car going down and creating a situation where a kid walks in front of the car and the car stops. That's one scenario, but every single scenario out there, they right now are developing an AI that is able to write the code for these situations so that we can have those situations. The car is programmed for these situations, but there's so many situations.
Yeah,
it's millions of scenarios.
It's hundreds of billions of scenarios in all of these
that
processes.
could happen with a car that they can't write out the code for everything, so they have to write a AI generated code to write the code for them.
So
that's dangerous because I just watched Megan last night and she fell apart in 1 week.
So that's a more advanced scenario of what I'm talking about. So games are formalized. They have patterns.
Right.
And so if you need a character to kick a ball, if you need we're talking like 8-bit at this point. If you need a character to jump or hit a box or grab a mushroom, right? If we're thinking in Mario terms, the AI, I think, is smart enough to help you learn how to do that. It's like, oh, well, you need to have this line of code, this line of code, this line of code.
Yeah.
So it's getting better at helping people learn how to write code. So at what point does the algorithm start writing its own code?
It already is the problem.
It definitely
I don't
is.
think it is yet.
For basic
That's
stuff,
the point
it
of
is.
that's the point of artificial intelligence.
But
you get it started and then it figures itself
This
out
is
and
code,
changes.
not editing.
What's the next thing?
The next thing is
We're
3D
talking about
printing.
AI too
Listen,
much.
the next thing is 3D printing. So you may not have realized this.
What happens when AI starts 3D printing?
It will, and that's the problem. So 3D printing is already mainstream. We've already had it for a long time. Game sets make little pieces for their board games that are cool, that are geeky, and
I have a 3D printed mask sitting in the other room.
But so
People are 3D printing handguns.
What the industry is starting to really pick up on is saying, like, how do we mainstream? And this is almost a little bit anti-artist. All right, this is more it's pro designer, but anti like physical artist, because it's going to literally just print like props and costumes, design, everything that you just need.
I don't think this is anti-art.
No, it's not.
Because, for an artist to make a prop, right? Let's say we're using foam. You cut out your foam to make a sword, to make a piece of armor. You cut it out, you shape it. Then the artist has to paint it.
Yeah.
They have to weather it.
Well, no, the machines can
They
do
have
that
to put
too.
carbon score. No, they can't. They can't put individual.
They will, though. It's at a
Maybe,
point.
but they can't put individual detail onto something that weathers it. You can 3D print, like that mask I have in there is black. It's just 3D printed. Hold on, I'm almost done. I'm the one who has to sand it down. I'm the one who has to paint it. I'm the one who has to weather it and put specific details onto it.
Let me go get it.
3D
real quick.
printing isn't.
Why he walks away? I'm just going to touch on this because I know this is not something we talk about. I follow and I have bought stocks in 3D printing companies. There's one specific that right now I don't have any money in, but I watch regularly. That Elon Musk just bought the company because he uses that company to print 3D parts for his
Teslas?
spaceships.
SpaceX.
Elon Musk bought a 3D printing company to print parts for his spaceship,
Which is smart.
So I at one point owned stock in companies like that,
Right.
because I watch
So
nerd stuff.
This is a good example of like how to build costumes.
this is really detailed. It's very nice.
Right.
But it's only 3D printed. So, a prop crew can 3D print this, and they can have this done in 24 hours, 48 hours, something like that. So the machine is doing all the work, and then you get this prop, but the artist still has to take it and paint it, maybe cut up, maybe chip this tooth off because it was hit with a sword.
Like I was saying, don't even just think about props. Let's say they have to create a piece of technology that can, this is very basic, like drop somebody from such or do something like that.
Shoot a laser. something that doesn't
Yes,
exist.
Yes, they could do that for the movie with 3D printing. It's not just props and things. It also can build technology for us, parts for the
All right,
technology.
but let's stay on the movie industry.
That is
Because there's
movies.
endless 3D printing opportunities. What I'm saying is for just the movie industry, it is going to change it. Now, I will say, like, if we get to the point where we're doing like 3D prints of like metal swords for Lord of the Rings, you know what I mean? We just got news this week that Warner Brothers is planning on doing more films for Lord of the Rings, live action films. So whatever that scenario falls under, imagine you're just having to like metal 3D print swords instead of a blacksmith up in there.
It's already
crafting them.
happening. There's a guy.
Hundreds.
There's a guy who specializes in 3D printing chainmail armor.
So what I'm saying is, it's not non-art. I'm just saying, like,
It is
we
art.
lose those classic
We're not,
opportunities.
but we're not. I don't think we're losing.
We're not
art.
losing. No,
We're
I don't think so
we're
either.
cutting out a pattern.
Yeah.
The same way with AI of having to build the prop. The artist, what the artist truly does is to
design
make
it,
make it fit in the world.
Right.
Like, I want to take this, I want to paint it red, I want all these teeth to be white, but I also want it to look like it's been through battles.
Yeah.
Maybe has some dried blood on it. Maybe there's a chip taken out of the side here where the person wearing it got hit.
I
That's
think they
all
did that.
up to the artist.
I think they did a ton of 3D printing for like the throne room in House of the Dragon. I think we saw behind the scenes of that example. For who's the Water King? What was his name?
Water King?
The Water King.
Starts with a C.
In Game of Thrones?
In House of the Dragon.
Corlys Valeria.
Yeah.
Yes.
So his throne room, like a ton of everything
None of that
was all
stuff
3D printed.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next thing.
Because we got a lot.
The next one is 3D pre-visualization. All right. So that's basically, now I will say this.
Like vision?
3D pre-visualization. They did this. Now they've done this a lot since, but they had this back with Surf's Up.
Yes.
Designing a set entirely
Designing a
in the
world.
computer,
I see what you're saying.
all in 3D so that you can explore it.
And
so
it's not even
we're
just
using Unreal Engine right now.
Yes.
In a lot of big productions.
Exactly. But the thing is, with this new technology, it's not just animated designs. You can also like basically scan or picture a live action set from where you're going to film, and the director can enter that set and figure out where's the best place for the camera, where the actors need to stand before production is even there. Before you're even there, you send someone out to do
explain this to people. We kind of skipped the gun.
It's a 3D world.
So they build the world and then they go in and they can move anywhere like a video game, but put a set up a camera and just film anywhere in that world.
Yeah, and sometimes it requires a headset like you have with VR to go into the world. You see visually what you want to film before you're even on set.
If you're curious how they got a lot of those shots in Surf's Up, it wasn't just animating. They built a previs
360
degree 3D
island
or set. It wasn't the whole island, but they would build a set. So
the characters
you would have a set for the beach, and you'd have the characters are on a track, right? These 3D penguins are on a track,
like a video game.
So they're moving, and then all you have to do is move your camera over to them, pick them up where you want them, and then move the camera somewhere else.
Which is really cool because literally inside of a computer they built a world. Then they took a physical camera and filmed inside of that world.
It's like VR.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
And it wasn't like a
What is it?
computer
Is it really
camera.
cool?
It's really cool.
It wasn't like a computer camera where they like moved it around on the screen. There's literally a room with a man with like a camera who's literally physically pointing the camera where they need so they get the actual shots of inside to make it look documentary style like the film turned out to be. First Surf's Up is a gem. It really is.
It
It's a
is.
fun movie.
I love it. So
Isn't that
watched
Elijah Wood?
I watched that's
Shia LaBeouf.
Shia LaBeouf.
Cheyenne.
And what's her name?
You're right.
What's her name?
I can't remember.
Zoe Deschanel and Jeff Bridges.
Yes. I knew Jeff.
Just real quick, what was I gonna say? So the volume uses a lot of that 3D
which
tech.
the volume's in here.
Yeah.
We'll get to the volume. So we have real-time rendering. Real-time rendering is a critical example of the new film technology associated with virtual productions. An emerging set of practices through which filmmakers combine virtual and physical elements into one seamless whole. So basically, I think what it's basically communicating. Now there is a video by Film Riot here that I should have watched before this to help get a better understanding of it. And all I can say is I think so. It says Unreal Engine is the future of filmmaking. It's similar to what we're seeing like with the volume, but I think there's something different. I mean, we're seeing it with the guy who did the mug salad that we talked about on the podcast. It's you do like green screen and you build the whole world in Unreal Engine or Blender, and everything is fake except for that. You know,
I can't. That'll be way too much off track. At the end of this segment, I would like to bring up something, but still keep this on track.
You should look up the making of mug salad. What was it called?
Dynamo Dream.
Dynamo Dream mug salad. You should look up the making for that, and this will give you a good understanding of what real-time rendering kind of looks like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or using real and fake elements in a environment.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's huge. We're going to see that more and more, especially in the indie market since we got...
And we don't, since we're not VFX artists, we truly don't understand.
I understand it. I just don't understand how to do it.
I don't have a grasp on this. Like, I've seen a lot of videos on the other stuff. I haven't seen much on...
It's not too different from what they did
rendering.
with Surf's Up, except you are building a set. Like, after you film it, you're building a set around them.
Okay.
So it's using a lot of like motion tracking. It's using a lot of 3D animation in Unreal or Blender, like Mug Salad was in Blender. It's the same. Well, last week we did the Ninja Turtle thing. I bet some of that that's an example. They use animated elements with probably real elements in the frame.
There's a YouTuber that I don't really watch, but I know of him. He stopped making videos for a long time, like for 2 years. And then he came back and started making videos again. And he was like, let me explain what I've been doing during this time. I created a production company where Snoop Dogg, I've worked with Snoop Dogg in the past. And for Snoop Dogg, one of Snoop Dogg's music videos, he wanted to do motion graphic of him like doing what he wanted, singing as he was animated. So I created a motion graphic stage, and Snoop Dogg put on the suit, and Snoop Dogg's doing his thing while he's rapping and just basically doing a live performance.
Everything's around him's animated.
Everything around him, and he is animated also.
I remember.
So they just did performance capture for Snoop Dogg.
Yes.
Okay.
There was something like that was done
like
in
Avatar.
In Fortnite.
Yeah.
There was like a live concert done in Fortnite with I forget the rapper's name, but I think it was similar to that. Either he did all the motions and they put him into the concert, or he was live doing the motions.
Justin Bieber has done that too.
Yeah.
Where he's been in the metaverse he did a live performance in the metaverse.
Okay.
Let's just say that. I don't want to get into that.
The next thing is the Internet of Things, and this is kind of where we see examples like, what was it, that we talked about it a lot. It was on Netflix and it starred Jake Gyllenhaal with The Guilty.
Yeah.
Where basically we're talking where the internet allows production to take place on a small scale, but still have everyone involved. Mm-hmm. So like The Guilty was filmed during COVID, and COVID really pushed this style of production, where basically like the director could be at home or in a van or offset, like directing the crew, a small crew and an actor virtually to do their performance, to get the video shots that they need, and all the communications over the internet. And he can see, just,
like these interview-esque late-night shows that they do over Zoom or anything like that.
So for the filmmaking industry, it's really going to change, because imagine maybe 5 years, it might already be happening, where a director is directing like 2 movies at once from his home.
Yeah.
Like someone, imagine this.
Imagine this. About that, but...
Imagine this, Guillermo Del Toro, stop motion. He has a crew of stop motion artists that work in the studio and do all that, and he gets like the camera that they're filming with, or and he's just at home, right? They have like a feed where they're sending him what the shot's gonna look like, and he's like, I want you to like move the camera over just a little bit, and I want you to look up at the.
That's a good Del Toro. Actually.
And he's like, and I want the character to kind of swing around this way, and So he's like explaining and directing the film, but he could be at home. And that's what I'm saying. The internet connection for production, you still need people on set, but you don't have to have everyone there. You don't need like a director's tent. The director's tent can be their bedroom.
We've discussed this as the culture. The culture has kind of discussed this idea of using the internet and using cameras and everything to be in one place but do something else somewhere else.
Right.
And it wasn't feasible necessarily in the early 2000s or even in the 2010s.
Right.
But as time goes on, internet gets better, connections get better, cameras on pads and on phones get better. We can do this long distance stuff much easier.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah, and I think the internet, just in general, the way we use connection and communication for the internet is going to change production. You don't need everybody there, just really the physical workers. So like imagine the director of photography is like the on-set director almost.
Yeah.
And everybody else, the producer, the director, everybody, the writers, the continuity person, they're just all on video cameras on a monitor, just at home watching the production take place and saying, hey, the director needs to talk to the actor. They flip on his mic, and it's just going through the motion.
And
you don't have to have these big elaborate sets.
If the director isn't on site, we'd probably have a lot less Me Too stuff going on.
Yeah, you're right. There wouldn't be as much sexual assaults if they had to stay home.
I don't know how many segments you have, but we're this one's going.
Okay, so
long.
we don't have to stay on this one long, but volume technology.
We've talked.
So
about
the volume is basically the Mandalorian. They did
Batman,
it for
and now The Last of Us.
It's a
little bit,
and House of the Dragon.
TV. Y'all,
it's a huge
real big
LED
TV. And the thing is, again, technology has gotten good enough that TVs can
LED technology.
LED TVs can simulate environments, and you can film those environments, and it looks good.
Yeah,
it looks right.
If you don't know what LED technology is, it's not like an LCD screen on a computer or anything like that. It's actually really tiny, like 1/4 of a centimeter by 1/4 of a centimeter light bulbs. Mm-hmm. So when you get away from it, it just looks like a TV. A lot of churches have these on their stages. You know what I mean? Yeah. But you get like the cutting edge LED technology like they have on Mandalorian and such, and you all of a sudden use Unreal Engine to make realistic looking environments, put it up on a TV, and that's the background.
And this is really great, but I think the volume is
gonna stunt creativity, you think?
It already is.
Yeah, somewhat. Yeah, you made a video
already
about
is.
This.
I mean, look at Mandalorian. Look at Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Right.
Look at a lot of what Marvel is doing. They use the volume because it's cheap and it's easy
and it's quick. They can film at whatever weather,
and it looks good. It kind of matches the way we expect CG to look, and so they're cutting costs by filming with this thing.
And then you got Andor, which
wasn't on the volume.
Yeah,
it was real sets,
right.
And that's why it looked different. That's why it felt different.
Yeah, and it felt like more of that classic style filmmaking, which all of this is going like in my mind. Every time we progress, it's exciting, but also we're losing some of that traditionalism.
We can't use this as a crutch.
We can't. No.
So using it like House of the Dragon did.
Where they built one throne room at the end of the show.
Where they use it to get certain shots, and then they use real sets, real locations for other shots. You got to be able to know how to use these technologies to make a production better, not lean on them as crutches.
In House of the Dragon, they built Corliss's throne room, but at the end, they used the volume to give us the Baratheon throne room.
Right.
So they used both. They used
build
sets,
something you can build and use this for something you can't build.
Yeah. Right. It's great. Or if you just don't have the money for it. Like you want to dump all your energy into Corliss's room because you're in there more.
Or also they used it for the dragons.
They used it for the dragon as well. Wrong button. Oh, that is the wrong button. Well, I can go down like that. That's
can.
right. I learned something. All right, so yeah, it obviously has a video attached about the Mandalorian for the volume technology. And then the last one is just the camera in general. Now, I will say this. I've experienced this at my personal work. Sony and, other big camera companies like Arri and Red and even IMAX, I know they're more in the traditional filmmaking world.
Which we talked about this.
Which we talked about it. Christopher Nolan takes advantage of that technology. But overall, the cameras are... The past 10 years for cameras have been one giant leap for mankind, if I will. You know what I'm saying? So it's like even just focusing technology. Like I shoot with a camera that does perfect, not face, but eye tracking. So it doesn't matter where your character moves around in your frame, it will follow focus perfectly, even if you have an extremely shallow depth of field. And that's a $6,000 Sony camera, right? Yeah. So imagine you get into the... So even focusing is no longer like a job where even up until like
my phone autofocuses.
Still, there's still a person in Hollywood that sits in front of the camera next to the camera operator and has like they preset where the person goes from one focus point to the next focus point. You know what I'm saying? I know people who had that job in Hollywood. They're focus pullers.
Yeah.
That's no longer a job because all a director of photography can, through connection on the internet, like said earlier, can be in a truck and just tap someone's face and it focuses for them on camera from their house or from, hundreds of feet away. They don't the person watching and all the director of photography has to do is move the camera or observe the movement of the camera.
Now we know a good director of photography is going to know when to take control.
Yeah.
When to take control of that camera lens, when to move it, when to do all these things that you can do with a computer. A good director of photography is going to know when to use them and when not to use them.
Exactly. And I think but also the main point for a director of photography, like what ultimately like is a good job, what they did is composition wise, the background, the foreground, the middle ground, everything works perfectly as a compositional art piece, as well as lighting. They're working with the gaffers. They're saying, I need this light here because I just need a touch of light like streaming down this person's eye. You know what I mean? Details like that, that's what really a good director of photography is thinking about. So having to be like, is that shot in focus? Is no longer a problem, which frees them up to get that off their mind. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because technology will do that for you.
Yeah.
And that's just one example of how incredible cameras have gotten. Now we'll talk about film cameras. Peter McKinnon did a video about the photography camera, Phase 1. It is an $80,000 camera, and all that is, it takes pictures, but all it is basically the sensor is so much bigger than any other photography camera on the market. So it creates the highest res photography pictures ever. So it's literally just a photo camera. It's called Phase 1. And you can put, I think he had a Canon lens on it or something. The sensor's just like so big. It just creates the most high quality photos ever.
Well, I watched a Corridor video where they were filming something and they were using like a new, I want to say it was Blackmagic.
Probably.
And
Blackmagic is pretty innovative.
It was just, they had a rig, they put the camera in the rig, and then all they had to do was walk with it and do everything, and it was automatically focusing, automatically stabilizing, doing all of this stuff by itself.
It might have actually been DJI, a DJI camera, because DJI, actually,
and
they present that here.
And they were showing... Yeah, it was something like this.
Yeah.
And they were showing how it was doing all of this stuff by itself. And so that they didn't have to think about stuff. They just had to get the shot.
This is basically a Steadicam op all through engineering and electronics.
Wild.
It's not even like a camera stabilizer. The camera has a built-in stabilizer. So like you have the camera, then you have a stabilizing arm, then you have the eye, the lens of the camera that runs down the stabilizing electronically into the camera. Yeah. So it's like the camera and the stabilizer all in one, which is crazy.
I held someone I knew had the small version of this. You know, the one that it's only like this big.
Yep.
It's like a GoPro.
We have one of those
thing.
at work.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a GoPro.
I don't even know what it's
camera
called. DJI made
attached
it
to
several years
but
back.
This is a cinema camera on a stabilization arm. So yeah, all you got to do is just pop that bad boy
And
in.
you can even program into it. It's like tell it exactly what to do.
Right.
It's like I need you to go from floor to ceiling to face.
Which we don't never use.
I'll say this.
Ronin S.
I'll say this. DJI and Blackmagic, they are innovative because they're creating wild technology that people can afford. However, they are full of bugs and problems that users have issues with.
Yeah.
How many people say their drone that gets them incredible footage one day just crashed because it lost connection? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
How many people, even Blackmagic cameras, the newest Blackmagic Pocket Cinema cameras that everyone loved, how many times did the camera just shut off with no warning because the battery's not dead or anything, and they lost all of their footage from like a wedding or something?
And
because
it's just a bug in the
it's
code.
finicky because it's made cheap. They're doing really cool things, but it's still made cheaper. Whereas Sony like upcharges like crazy because you can rely on their technology to always work correctly, but they're not as innovative as someone like Blackmagic or DJI. You know what I mean? So it's like you want it reliable or you want to do something new. You know what I mean? That no one else is doing. And that's where right now with the technology, that's really what you have to balance. That's all I have.
Well,
Go for it.
I have to pee.
All right. Well,
Like,
let's take
so
a break.
bad.
Let's take a break and pee.
I'm dying.
they're developing this
I think we're going to need to change batteries in
this
this camera.
software because of theft through the blockchain, where our tools at Lowe's, if someone takes a tool right now and they can get it out of the package, it's usable. Right now, they're making a software because of the blockchain where they have to activate that tool at the register, so it does not work unless you activate it at the register.
Oh, dang.
And so even if a thief takes a drill, it's not going to work for them, so there's no point stealing it because it doesn't work until you activate it. I was going to bring that
Interesting.
up, but that brings it's out we were talking about. So I didn't really wanna...
All right. Thank you, Karina, for being a Patreon supporter. Look, the patrons are the bread and butter of what we do. They're the bread and butter now. Don't stick your head up and think about it. They are. And we we love them and we thank them. And they get shout outs on podcasts. And if you want to be a Patreon supporter yourself, just go to the link in the description and choose the tier that best fits your content needs. Now, what are they getting, Joshua, if they go to Patreon?
The podcast videos early. They're getting exclusive content with, watch parties with
When we do them.
Yeah, if you get...
Those are a little bit more infrequent just because we spend a lot of time doing a lot of stuff.
The podcast gets week early access to podcasts.
Yeah.
No, the Patreon gets week early access to podcasts.
I mean, sometimes we dabble in new things where, like, I just did a podcast with Ethan and
right.
wasn't the best, but I threw it up there because, they can
You
see
did
it.
something.
Yeah, I
and
did something.
Yeah.
And we also
Let the patrons
experimenting.
see it.
we
Let
do a
the
pre-show every single week. That's an exclusive 20-minute podcast that patrons get exclusively, which is pretty exciting stuff. So Karina's over there on Patreon. Thank you for Karina for being a Patreon supporter. And if you want one as well, just go get you one.
Yeah.
Now, go get you one.
Yeah. I was
Now,
like, what?
So the next topic is we're going to be learning a little bit, but more importantly, you guys know that I'm not the biggest fan of Back to the Future.
I hear him
Which
gearing
is
up for
insane.
something. Like, what is it? Whatever he's gearing up for. I'm
Wait,
nervous.
I think it's insane.
Yeah.
I think this is insane because Back to the Future is one of those.
Dun, 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 dun,
It's one of those
dun,
films
dun,
that-
dun, 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 dun.
It
Just boring.
It defined
No.
it defined a generation.
It's
Yeah,
so
you're right.
fun.
This is a sci-fi film that is extremely sci-fi fantasy. It's based in no kind of like real science fiction, and it's a broad appeal kind of movie, but is super fun. What are you doing?
I am now a studio executive.
Okay.
And I am going to be giving you reasons as to why this film should never have been made.
Ooh,
Oh my
okay.
goodness. I hate this segment already.
All right, good.
So, first off, this movie could be considered a failure from certain points of view. Now,
right.
it made money, of course, but when it comes down to it, the art form, how on earth has money ever been a part of this art form when we're dealing with artists?
The entire time.
Well, but
I'm going to give you some examples.
In fact, we just were watching a documentary about Steven Spielberg, where they wanted him to keep making broad appeal family picture adventure films. Why? Because they made money.
Yeah.
They didn't want him to stray outside and actually be an artist.
Right. Which is wrong.
I hate this character
Which is wrong.
at all.
Okay,
Keep
so
going.
first off, nobody wanted this film.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
And here's the proof. So when Spielberg wanted his production company, Albaline Entertainment, to make the film...
Amblin.
Amblin. The director and producers of this film basically were like, no, I don't want to say this is a popular film because Steven Spielberg was a part of it. So they wanted to be able to go through the market themselves of Hollywood and say, look, this is a good story, and so we got it made. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, besides the fact that it ended up getting made, it took 44 times before they got picked up. 44 pitches. That means nobody in Hollywood wanted this film, and that means 44 people, my peers, knew what a good film was and said we shouldn't make this film.
These peers told Steven Spielberg that he is not allowed to make his passion projects, that they wanted to define what his art was.
This film in and of itself did not pick a lane.
Also denied Indiana Jones because they said Steven was known for going off way over budget, way over time, way over all these other things. They wouldn't do Indiana Jones.
These peers are also allowing the current modern Disney and Marvel and Star Wars productions to be made.
That is your opinion, first off.
Well, it's actually fact.
Also, this film did not pick a lane. In some ways, it was too sweet. It was too family. It was too fun for a action adventure. All right, there was too much. It was about love and parents and stories. But it's a back in time future. It's a time travel. Also,
some say
it wasn't sweet enough because Disney called it too incestuous.
Some say it would be all
So
about
they wouldn't
family.
want it. So not only did
It is
44
all about
people,
family.
not only did 44
Keep
people,
it in the family.
44 studios not want it before it got
Okay,
picked up.
okay.
It was too sweet for an action adventure time travel film, and it was too incestuous for Disney to pick it up. So they couldn't do it. So I'm just saying, basically based on this evidence, nobody wanted it. So why was it made?
And it still,
Of course not. I have more points.
And it still
How many
succeeded.
points you got?
Audiences still love it.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Monkeys are better than dogs. Everybody knows this. Look at Barbossa.
Yeah, but the dog was
a loved antagonist.
Was 0.5% of the movie. The dog had nothing to do with the movie.
In first drafts, Doc Brown had a pet chimp called Shep.
Shemp?
Shemp. This was changed to a pet dog called. Do you remember how to say this name?
Where is the name?
Esty?
Einstein. It's Einstein. That's his name, Einstein.
Opposed
I
to
get
what
these
we
glasses
talked
on
about
and I lose all
earlier
my
was
intelligence.
Eisenstein. This is just Einstein.
Yeah.
Look, this doesn't make sense. Monkeys are better than dogs. It should have been a monkey. It would have been a better success if it was a monkey, in my opinion.
They're also harder to work with. Let's be honest. They fling poop. They bite. They could rip your face off. Whereas
MVP.
Well-trained.
Dunstan checks in. Barbossa's capuchin. I'm just saying,
Well-
monkeys are better than dogs, and they went with a dog.
Well-trained dog versus well-trained monkey. Monkey is still harder to control.
Doc Brown
No,
should have
no,
had
no.
a pet
Look
monkey,
at this.
and the fact
How
that they
many-
didn't makes it a less good of a film.
How many
Monkeys
monkey
are better
movies
than
out there
dogs.
is there out there compared to how many Air Buds are out there? There's so many more Air Bud.
Monkeys are better than dogs on screen.
There's
they
so many-
show more personality.
And let me hold on. Let me just
They're
go back.
mischievous. They're
Yeah,
good.
but
They're good for the audience
The
to laugh
monkey
at.
would
Let me
have been
just
in there
point
for
this
all
out.
of 1%.
Let me just point this out before we move on. Audiences still loved this movie, and it was successful.
Yeah.
So we can move on from this one.
I have a feeling that's going to be your whole point.
Yikes.
They put actors at risk.
Okay, that's probably with most
every
movies.
old 80s movie has done this.
So let's just see what it took for the director of photography to make this iconic, let's go back in time shot look so good.
Mm-hmm.
All right? So 2 tire tracks were laid out in gasoline to
Yes.
get them lit up, right?
Yeah.
That's first off, you're lighting gasoline on fire. Very hazardous situation. So they had to paint gasoline on the ground and then light it up. Paint tire tracks, essentially.
Right.
Big risk.
Epic shot.
They had a stuntman actually drive the DeLorean.
It's one of the most iconic shots in the movie.
Yeah, but I could take it. I could leave it. I'd take it and leave it. I could have left it.
It's one of the
It
most
would have been just as
iconic
good.
shots in the movie. Is that
It
the
would have been
car
so
leaves
just
these
fine,
fiery trails.
So they he had to use a stuntman for this because it was so dangerous. But the
Like
stuntman
you do
is
for
also an
most
actor.
things.
Look,
Wait,
they had to drive the DeLorean at very high speeds. Now, granted, they didn't have him drive over the fire, but they superimposed it later. But high speeds in a car, we all know that Fast and Furious fakes it. They don't go very high speed fast.
Well, they do sometimes.
With an old jaggedy car like the DeLorean, that was just picked up on the street. And then they put a whole bunch
Listen,
of
also
gizmos and gadgets on
for
it.
the stuntman. Stuntmen wear fire retardant suits. They put this fire retardant cream all over their bodies, and this man wasn't even lit by fire. He was simply standing over the tracks, which the actors were superimposed. Or the tracks are superimposed later. So the actors, when like Marty is looking down and they're turning and looking at the car, that iconic shot. The fire's not even there.
Now,
Yeah.
I'll say this. One move they did do in consideration for these artists, these actors, was they chose not to actually light the thing up with electricity, and all of the lightning bolts and smoke was added
Fake, yeah.
was added
Was
visually
added after
later,
the fact,
visual
which
effects.
I think lends a certain mystique and fantasy to it.
Yeah.
Look, and
What
think
else?
look at this
Director of
quote from Dean Cundy.
All right.
Is that how you say
Yeah, I think so.
Dean Cundy. Look at his quote here. Go ahead and read that, Wyatt, just to prove.
He says, nowadays it would all be digital. No way would you have fire and speeding cars around the stars. My success is based entirely on how many movies
I tried
on how
to
many
kill. Movie stars I tried to kill. Listen, by the own director of
No.
photography's quote, he is attempting dangerous stunts with actors who is a serious liability for these studios.
to create a movie that everybody enjoyed and was successful. Jackie Chan. How many
Yeah.
times did Jackie Chan hurt his body, hurt himself, put his life on the line to create stunts and shots and martial arts scenes for all of us to enjoy?
Irrelevant if you kill an actor in the process.
It's not. It's about passion. The actors agreed to this.
Can we trust their casting?
Yeah. No.
Can we trust it?
Not with this guy.
Well, let's look into this man, shall we? So Glover was his last name.
Yeah. What's his first name?
George. No, that's a character name. I'm an executive. I don't
I don't remember
concern
names.
myself with these details. Apparently, Glover made a mess the entire time while
Yeah.
on set. He wouldn't stop arguing with the director. He wouldn't he was super upset
I've heard about this.
how the film ended. He was too much of a problem, right? And if you're going to cast someone like that in a major role to play Marty McFly's father at a young age, then why on earth could we trust their casting across the board?
He isn't in the next two movies. They used some clever shots.
Yeah, because an executive had to get involved and say, you're not allowed in the next few films.
They used some clever shots in the next two movies to kind of make it look like he's there when he's actually not. And yet, through all the problems, the film still got made and was successful, and audiences loved it.
Yep.
Apparently, this role ended Glover's career in Hollywood. Well, it didn't probably completely
Crispin
end it,
Glover.
but no other major motion pictures would have him on set because he was such a problem. Now,
Well, if you're an ass, then nobody wants to work with you.
Yeah, that's your fault.
so what I'm saying is, can we trust their casting? If we can say
Can we not pretend like this isn't a problem with a lot of movies
Of
where there's
course it
somebody
is.
who's being a drama queen?
we're not talking
and
about
yet
other
the movie
movies.
still gets made,
We're talking about Back to the Future.
and the movie still got made.
What?
Crispin was his name. Crispin Glover.
Yeah, let's not pretend like this isn't an issue with a lot of movies.
What's
a lot
your
of
point
good
to all
movies.
this?
The point to all this,
You got a couple more points?
Two more things.
more things.
He's got two more things.
but I'm not going to do this as an executive.
Is it getting hot?
It is getting hot, and also I want to be me for these next bits.
Honestly,
This is it. That was a bit.
2 more things, and then the point.
No, this is just 2 more things I want to present because I've been giving you fun facts through a certain lens about this film the whole time. So I want to kind of change. I just want to present 2 more fun facts.
That's actually really nice.
Those are blue light glasses.
Yeah.
So they shield your light from blue light or the computer.
Shield your light.
Shield your eyes. So this is actually kind of fun that I found. So apparently one of the executives, Steven Spielberg, gave an executive a smackdown when he tried to change the name to, what was it called? Something about Spaceman from Pluto. He tried to change the name of the script, the film into. Have you guys heard about this?
No.
Okay, so this was like the notes that this executive gave. That's apparently public online, and basically read like the first few sections of this because he butters them up here.
So yeah,
and then so go ahead and read it.
I believe that the present draft is terrific, and I marvel at the improvements that have been made from the Columbia version. I continue to believe the title leaves much to be desired. There are a number of reasons why I found the title less than wonderful, but my primary concern is that it appears to make the picture a genre picture. I think the script and hopefully the film deserves a better title. So this is be
early.
aware. This is producers in general.
Right.
Yeah.
They're assholes.
Executive producers.
Yeah.
Don't lump producers into it. Executives at companies, executive producers. Producers are just there to try to get the film made.
Sometimes. So now
Steven
that
Spielberg was a producer,
he actually says, now that I have buttered you up by saying all of these nice things, which those weren't nice things, I would suggest we consider the title Spaceman from Pluto. Underpinning these suggestions are the following thoughts. Number 1, modify dialogue on page 35 from that Sherman calls Marty a spaceman from Pluto. Modify Marty's dialogue on page 77 so that he identifies himself as a spaceman from the planet Pluto. Wait, they were trying to change
the movie from Back to the Future to Spaceman?
Right.
Instead of Darth Vader from Vulcan, which is a much better line.
Yeah.
Change because his dad's a nerd, right? Change the title of the book written by George and referred to on page 130 from a match made in space to Spaceman from Pluto. He was really pushing.
He was pushing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He says, obviously, you get the idea.
Okay, so the point is like he really wanted it to be called this for some obscure reason. So
no. He says, "I'm sure that there will be those who will argue that the movie will appear to the audience to be a cheap, old-fashioned sci-fi flick." Nonsense. I think it's a kind of title that was heat. I think it's a kind of title that has heat, originality, and projects fun. Most importantly, I think it avoids the feeling of a genre time travel movie. Okay, so executive producers have no creativity. He says, I think it should be this way.
Well, just out of left field, Spaceman from Pluto. Yeah. That has to have been something in the back of his mind, like, I really want to make a movie called this. And because I had this idea while I was bathing myself one evening.
I applaud Spielberg for saying no, because...
No, he didn't just say no.
What'd he say?
Check out what he said. We took the memo to Steven Spielberg, who told us, don't worry, I know how to handle this. Before writing a letter back which said, hi, Sid, thanks for your most humorous memo. We all got a big laugh out of it. Keep them coming.
See,
Spielberg just flexes a little bit and like, this is a good joke, man.
If
good job.
More people did this nowadays, we wouldn't have the issues with movies that we have.
Probably.
I mean, whose idea was it to call it the most recent Marvel movie, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania?
Dumb.
Just call it Ant-Man and the Wasp 2 or Ant-Man Quantumania.
Ant-Man Quantumania.
No, we had to include all of these things. It's dumb.
Yeah.
Call it Ant-Man 3.
Ant-Man 3.
Ant-Man 3.
That's what the early 2000s would have done.
And that's we've heard about this a lot with a lot of the Star Wars, Disney, Pixar stuff, is like notes from producers like this are all being taken seriously.
Right. Last little fun fact I wanted to bring up was apparently the director clarified how Doc and Marty got to know each other. Mm-hmm. And that's not in the film, and people have been asking. So for people who are curious as to why they know each other in the beginning of the movie, the director gave us a clarifying point. So apparently the director says Marty, he snuck onto Doc's lab and was fascinated by all the cool stuff that was there. When Doc found him in there, he was delighted to find that Marty thought he was cool and accepted him for what he was. Both of them were black sheep in their respective environments. Doc gave Marty a part-time job to help with experiments, tend to the lab, and tend to the dog, etc. Could have been a monkey. Could have been a monkey.
I like this.
Marty, the backstory, the off-screen lore is Marty snuck onto the lab and met Doc.
I like having this here, not in the movie.
Yeah.
Because a modern movie would be like, let's explain their whole relationship. Let's explain it. Let's tell you everything that happens.
Right.
They're just like, they're friends. Yeah. They know each other.
As an executive, I was gonna bring this up and be like, they should have showed this on screen.
Yeah, exactly. I hate it. Yeah. I'm glad they didn't do this.
I'm not saying it's a bad film. In fact, I think it's actually a really good film. What I do think is like, I don't know. I watched it and it's fun.
When was the last time you watched it?
It does make you smile. I think there's just something about it that it just doesn't. It doesn't click with me like enjoyment wise as much as you guys. So I don't tend to seek it out to watch. But I respect it hardcore.
Probably the last time you watched it was when I forced you to watch all 3 movies.
I think honestly, I have more memories of disliking 2 and 3 than I do the first one.
And you know what?
2 and 3,
no, I thought
there's a lot to love about 2 and 3, honestly, in my opinion.
I remember when we watched it, you were like, 3 has some thrilling kind of moments to it that are exciting, but it's still, I don't like the movie. I remember you said that you kind of like 3 a little bit.
Honestly, I don't know what it is about the movie. I love a lot of movies. There's just something, maybe if the first one was by itself, maybe I would like it more.
I remember...
I think the second one was too off the wall for the future concepts.
Maybe. We watched the first one, and I wanted to watch 1, 2, 2 and 3, and Joseph was like, no. And I remember for the longest time when we could rent, we were renting shows to go at that point, and I wanted to rent all 3, and I was like, let's get them. And Joseph's like, nah, we're not wasting our money to get those movies. We're not.
You had to pick a good movie. We're spending money, man.
And it was so long before I was like, no, I guarantee I made some kind of bet with him. I was like, okay, if we do this, then we'll get these movies. And we watched them. Joseph was like, I don't. And I'm like, yeah, we gotta
I would
watch
understand. I understand the trepidation because a lot of what happens in 2 and 3 especially
are a little odd.
Well, it's a repeat of jokes that they did before.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? They'll repeat it because the idea that something happens over and over again throughout time, it's funny.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's like, it happened then, so it could happen now.
Yeah.
There's nothing new under the sun.
And this is what I think it is. I think probably when I watched it, I wasn't open to the fact of, oddly enough, some of the executives of these companies probably profiled me correctly. I wasn't thinking like, I want a funny, lighthearted time travel. No, I was like, I want a badass, like dark, thrilling action time traveler movie. And I think that's probably what sat with me at a younger age. Yeah. And if I accept it for what it is now, it's just a humorous family fun, not really comedy, but kind of silly movie.
Yeah, it is.
About time travel.
It's a
I would accept it for what
adventure.
It is. Yeah, I would accept it for what it is. I think at the time, just didn't like it at first, and I've leaned into it as I got older. So yeah, that's it. That's all the fun facts awesome. I have about it.
I like it.
We have one more bit to go through.
How's our camera doing?
I think we're all right.
All right.
But first, I want to just plug the Patreon one more time. Why not? Check out the Patreon. You can see this early. Yeah. If you watch on the Patreon, why not?
Okay.
The Patreon. Just
you
remind
said one more, and then our 30-second.
One more and then 30-second. I want to explore the story of what Guillermo Del Toro's next film is going to be. Now, he saw a lot of love and respect and got his flowers for the Pinocchio stop motion film that came out on Netflix not too long ago. So his next stop motion film, which by the way is beautiful. I mean, it's kind of a simple story. Guillermo Del Toro?
What's
nationality?
Yeah.
I don't know. Where's
Spanish, probably.
There's something,
I don't know.
And Martin, the big, and even Peter Jackson.
Yeah, these big bearded guys,
big bearded
fantasy guys.
Yeah,
Mexico.
They just
What are you doing? Which friggin'?
They probably
Guadalajara.
They've got bad hearts, and they
come on now.
Probably have bad knees too. But
bad knees and
they're
bad
still
hearts.
going.
They're still being creative.
They can tell a good
I like
story.
to make the public movies.
I like to make the public movies.
Ooh, I don't know why I
something
said
more. It's in the jowls.
something about saying a big bearded man made me want a meatball sub. I don't know why.
I can make you a mean meatball sub. I know how to make
good.
grandma's meatballs now.
We should
I'm
do that
really
after
good
this
at 'em.
podcast.
I'm really good at them.
We did melon mushroom last week.
Okay, so the next stop motion film that he wants to create, and he's announced they're working on the screenplay right now, is called The Buried Giant, and I have the Wikipedia for it.
I didn't know it was a book.
It's a book, and it's written. Do you know how to pronounce that name? Kazio.
Which one?
Kazio.
I would guess
Ishiguro.
Ishiguro.
Kazuo Ishiguro.
Ishiguro. That's how I would say it.
This is a book. This is a story, and let me just read the brief synopsis about this because
his episodes he's got to read a lot. I'm
trying to react to genuine information.
Right?
Okay?
Could you please zoom in more?
We can't read it
I
twice.
swear, one day you guys are gonna stop commenting on my zooming. The thing is, if I zoom, people can on YouTube now. For people who don't know, on YouTube you can zoom into the video with your fingers.
What are you, Tim Allen?
On your
Have I made this joke before?
yes, you did like last week.
Oh, zoom. Yeah, you can zoom.
Look,
I made this exact
What
joke.
does this page say?
you can zoom in on the video. So if I zoom in, people can zoom in on the screen. Do it right now. Ready? Zoom. You can see the screen and they can read it for themselves. So we don't have to get to all the details when I zoom in and show it.
Smell blueberry. Why? What's blueberry? You drinking something blueberry?
Maybe.
Oh.
Back off. So
What does this say?
So The Buried Giant is a fantasy novel by Nobel Prize winner, British writer.
But we went through what type of fantasy? 'Cause fantasy could mean a lot.
Okay, this is I don't know exactly. Okay, so
never mind.
the novel follows elderly Britain couple
Brighton. Because they're from Brighton.
Axel and Beatrice living in a fictional post-Arthurian. Do you know what that means?
Arthurian.
Oh, like Arthur.
Yeah.
King Arthur.
Arthurian.
Okay, England.
Oh.
So this is a timepiece.
Yeah.
Timepiece. Oh.
England, which no one is able to retain long-term memories. Interesting. After dimly recalling they might years earlier have had a son, the couple decide to travel to a neighboring village to seek him out. The book, okay, so basically this is a story about two, Axel and Beatrice, and they are looking for their son they think they've had.
No, you're right. I think it is Britain. Because it says Britain's here.
So wait, you just corrected me for no reason?
No, it looked like Brighton. I guess.
Yeah, that's a little lie, bro. That's not a long eye.
I'm correcting myself.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That sounds wacky, but I have not seen the movie, so
Pinocchio's wacky. A wooden boy that grows nose.
This sounds fun.
No, it sounds
fun for a live stop
motion again.
Yeah, so it's technically live. It's not live action. It's
Claymation.
real photos. It's not even claymation.
It's not, but that's what it is.
It's stop motion with toys, basically. Little figurines.
Okay.
But I mean, it says, following the death of King Arthur, Saxons and Britons live in harmony. Mm-hmm. That is fantasy.
It is. And King Arthur, like the sword and the stone, they have dragons. You remember Camelot, Quest for Camelot? Mm-hmm. Similar world. You remember that good old film, Quest for Camelot?
Quest for Camelot?
This is really interesting. They suffer from a severe selective amnesia that they call the mist.
Oh, we're getting a little
This
dark.
is really interesting. I hope this is kind of dark.
And this is a story that a lot of people don't know. It's called The Buried Giant.
Do we have the IMDb for this at all?
We do, but there's no information there.
Any pictures?
No.
I'm going to kind of go back to Kubo and the Two Strings. It was dark. Mm-hmm. It was kind of
Who did Kubo?
I don't know. I actually don't.
Oh.
I have no idea.
So I'm looking up
I should know because I really like the movie.
So maybe some fans of the book did some art online for this story. So Maybe here's some examples.
Yeah, something
Beatrice
like
and Axel looking for
So
their
it's
son.
a quest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's see if there's any wacky characters that they describe. Is this the bear? Okay, Avalon and the Buried Giant. So there might be a dragon involved. There might be
Cool.
dragons in the story.
I hope so. If it's post
Hold on, here we
Arthur,
go. Here we go.
King Arthur.
The buried Kuzo. Yeah, this is a screenshot. There's gonna be giants.
Orcs.
Orcs.
Well, it says the buried giant.
Yeah, the buried giant.
So I would
depicts
hope there's
strange.
giants.
This whatever
Sick.
Guillermo's doing, it almost feels like what was the movie you watched with commentary that was just like the puppets and it was wacky, but there was no story, but it was just a story. No story was the story. Labyrinth. It feels like who made that? Henson?
Jim Henson.
Jim Henson. It feels like
Chris Hansen.
Chris Hansen. You called him Chris Hansen. I like to call you Chris Hansen.
I mean,
it feels like what he was doing with his stuff, and
it was
what Guillermo's doing is like hand in hand. It's just different.
It's just his has a story.
Right.
Labyrinth's story was so basic, and it was well, you didn't
Questionable.
watch it.
Oh,
It was
dang.
focused mainly on the puppets. It was focused solely on displaying these puppets, and the
Yeah.
puppets were amazing.
These on.
And the story was so
Forgot I was wearing.
I mean, I'm the only one who hasn't
Weak.
put it on yet.
But I mean, really, it was David Bowie luring a teenage girl to his castle. So Chris Hansen should have shown up.
All right. So, based on this, are you more or less excited compared to Pinocchio?
I'm seeing what he did with Pinocchio and knowing nothing about this story. I'm more excited
Because it might present a really cool, fun story that you know nothing about.
because I would say I enjoyed Kubo and the Two Strings because I didn't know what the story was. I know what Pinocchio is,
right.
and even though he changed a lot, I know what Pinocchio is.
I didn't watch Pinocchio.
See, you lost. You failed.
It's not too late. I can watch it.
Yeah, it's on Netflix, dog.
It's not too late. I'll do it.
You should
do it this week.
It's
Again.
it's beautiful, and it's also a well-told story.
I'm gonna go after this. I'm gonna eat my meatball sub and watch this movie.
Well,
Interesting
actually,
take on things.
No, yeah, you can do that. I've got another project I got to work on. But
Well,
I
I don't need to watch.
I also have a commentary for GoldenEye that I'd like to watch.
Nice.
What does that mean?
A Djibouti commentary for the movie
GoldenEye?
GoldenEye.
I don't know what that is.
It's a James
but
Bond
we also
film.
have 2 movies in this. Two TVs in this apartment. We literally could.
Yeah,
both
you
be
guys can
watching
come
2
in here and
different
watch
things.
something on
No, we
here.
got three TVs. I got a TV in my room.
Yeah, so one of you could come in here and watch your show in the studio if you want. We have a TV in here. Just plug
I
your
got a bigger
computer
TV in my room.
I wouldn't want to violate this space
Why?
by watching TV
It's
and
a
eating
perfectly good
snacks.
TV.
I got a bigger TV in my room.
All right, listen here. Let's go ahead and do 30-second stories so we can wrap this up.
My
Yeah.
week.
How do you guys notice every time I produce, our episodes go a little longer?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because you talk a lot.
no, I
We
I
had a lot of
stimulate.
breaks
You really
here.
talk.
There was a couple
Talk
like
so
we
much.
had to stop.
Incorrect.
We had to do-
talk-
Yeah, that first segment you talked quite a bit.
No, so did you,
Well, you know,
and so did you.
I gotta balance
I
it
didn't
out.
I didn't even bring up the topic I wanted to talk about my tool theory
But
and
I
technology.
included it. I
Keep your
included
tool out of this.
because when we came
Let's
back from the
move
break,
on.
I included it. Is what I did in the edit. I included it.
Me talking about it?
Yeah,
In the edit?
in the edit, I left
You
it in.
already know?
I crossfaded. Yes.
Interesting.
No, because I was talking about it out there.
No, you were talking about it
you
in
were
here,
talking about it in here.
and I included it in the edit.
You
People
don't
already
have
heard it.
good remembering.
I distinctly remember starting to talk about it over here, and then I walked and sat down.
No,
You walked in, you sat down.
you started telling us. The one thing I was trying to
Let's
say.
end this. Let's do our
30
30
seconds.
second
Whose turn is
story.
it?
It's my
Josh's.
story. Give me 2 prompts.
All right, here we go.
Oh,
Wait.
ooh.
It was.
I did
his-
it last week.
Was it, are you sure?
I did it last week.
It was. Yeah, you did do it last week.
We decided we're going counterclockwise.
I've done it one time, and we've done this 30 second for about 6 episodes
Counterclockwise.
now.
Yeah.
Counterclockwise. All right. It's your turn. I did it last week.
Okay, just give me my prompts.
Stripping knife paint.
That's your 2 things. That counts as 2 things. That's a
I'll take
huge
it.
thing.
I'll
That's a
take it.
huge thing.
Stripping.
Stripping and knife paint. What is your 2 things? What's your things, Wyatt?
Baja Blast.
That's one thing. Baja Blast is one thing.
Okay, the other one's Taco Bell.
Okay.
Taco Bell Baja Blast.
Okay, let me pull out their phone. Hold on. Think about it.
Stripping and knife.
Stripping knife paint. Because knife paint's one thing and stripping is another.
Taco Bell Baja Blast.
Hold on.
That's what you want after.
Are you ready for 10 seconds to think?
No, I don't.
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right,
to go.
10 seconds.
No. I'm losing it.
And go.
So there was a little boy. His name was Johnny, and he was painting a room one day, and he said, "I don't like it." Okay, I just messed
Keep going.
up.
Keep going.
Johnny, knife.
Oh,
I'm losing it.
Stop. You can't just not
no,
lose.
Okay, no, let me start over. There was a boy named Johnny, and he had this knife. He said, I don't like this knife because there's a lot of rust on it and other things, so I'm going to take some paint stripper. I'm going to put it on there. But while he was doing this, he got very hungry, and he started thinking about Taco Bell and Baja Blast. So he's like, let's go get some Taco Bell and Baja Blast. And this story is crazy.
There it is. No, you got
way
it.
over 30
You
seconds.
got it.
So
I
Johnny
was
decided
trying to create my own story than
Johnny
what's
decided-
actually going to happen because I know this is going to be...
You know what's actually interesting? That very well might happen today.
That's
'Cause Wyatt's
going
gonna-
to... I was
Wyatt-
trying to create my
Wyatt-
own version that wasn't reality.
Change your story's name from Johnny to Wyatt, and that might be reality.
Yes. I didn't want
Wyatt
to
is going to strip
create
some knife
reality.
paint. Wyatt's
I
going to
wanted
strip
to
some knife
do a
paint,
story.
and later on in the day, he might have a craving for Baja Blast and Taco Bell.
I don't have a craving for Taco Bell.
Okay. Update. You got stripping knife paint before 30 seconds
You
was done.
did.
But you didn't get Baja Blast or Taco Bell until
But you
after.
did formulate a story.
But
He strips a knife, he gets Baja Blast. That had both of
And
the
Taco
prompts
Bell.
in it.
And
Well,
Taco Bell.
why I was losing it there because I was trying to create a story that was not what actually is going to happen because I just said what's going to happen later after this podcast.
You should have said like
I wanted to create my own
while he was
story.
stripping the knife paint. He realized like he had a thought. I should try the Baja Blast to strip this knife paint,
No,
and it worked.
It was.
And then he went and got Taco Bell and rubbed some Taco Bell on it, and it also stripped the knife paint.
Listen,
but I couldn't think of that.
You stumbled. You gave up, but
Then I started over.
you started over. You pushed through, and you created something.
But I
Something-
created
okay.
reality.
Okay, and
It's
here's
a
the thing.
pseudo
but
reality.
it's linear.
And the thing is, the world is better because we have that now.
No,
Is it?
no,
I
no.
know it is.
Well, you might get an idea for Baja Blast and Taco Bell later while you're stripping a knife and being
No,
like, huh.
because every time
He already got me. Thinking
every
about
time we
meatball
eat Taco
subs.
Bell,
Oh, dang.
Wyatt always complains about his stomach hurting.
No, not only that one time.
My stomach hurts
I
when I
eat
eat
Taco Bell during the week, and I feel good.
My stomach hurts when I eat Taco Bell.
Okay, listen. I will make us meatball subs this afternoon, but you have to provide the beef meat, the subs, and this red sauce.
I have.
Everything.
But I will do all the labor. It's a multi-hour
No, let's go
excursion.
get subs so we don't have to create our own sub, and then
No,
we
but
go
you get
do
grandma's
our bet.
meatballs, and I can show you how good they are.
Yes, they're going to be good, but we also have to. We have something else on the priority.
No, I still have to edit a video, so I can make meatballs and edit a video in increments. But going and getting it to 2 is not. It's like a whole excursion thing. I will get a
let's save that
tattoo
for
with you,
later.
but let's wait until I'm on parental leave when I have more time.
Well, but
I'm
are
exci-
you going to want to do that?
Yes, I have
Grandpa?
6 weeks of parental leave. I'll have time.
Tattoos are temporary. Meatballs are forever. All right.
No, for real, go get the
I
ingredients.
really want these.
I'll
meatballs.
make you some homemade meatball subs. Get the bread, it's the sub bread. Get the beef, and get the red sauce.
kind of-
I have the ingredients for everything.
We're
else.
done. Like we've stopped recording, right?
No, we're
Well,
still going. We're fading
right now,
out.
Listen.